Coming up, what does it take to create a great horror story? We visit with an award-winning writer who breaks it down. Plus, get your cosplay ready because this year's Indigi-Pop-X is starting soon. We visit with the founder. I am Aaliyah Chavez. Join us for those interviews, plus headlines from the ICT Newscast.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.
Arizona State University welcomes 3,500 Indigenous students from Arizona and across the nation. It serves one of the largest populations of Indigenous students among U.S. colleges and universities. We created a sense of place for tribal nations to create futures of their own making through community outreach and research, taught by world-class Indigenous faculty where they see a reflection of themselves and their experiences. Find community at ASU.
Amirawa Hopa, thank you for joining us. The first Native American radio station was started by the American Indian movement on the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota in 1983. That was 10 years after the occupation of Wounded Knee. ICT's Shirley Snavy and Stuart Huntington have this report.
KILI Radio celebrated its 40th anniversary last Friday night with an event in Rapid City. The Voice of the Lakota Nation brought supporters from all over the country. Ed Ironcloud III was there.
Several years ago, I worked at KILI Radio, so I just came here to help out. I want to help celebrate, and it's a very historic event here, and also with the 1973 occupation, the activities going together. So see some family and friends.
Robert Pilot, host of Native Roots Radio, a national production out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, said KILI was the first.
The importance of the 40th anniversary of KILI is they were the first. You know, there was no other message out there in Native country and Indian country. So that it's just an important legacy that we need to celebrate, and I'm glad they're still going.
KILI can be heard from the Black Hills to Pine Ridge and the Rosebud Reservation. Roughly translated, the Lakota word means awesome.
It brought people together, like this event here, and also continue to try to, inform people as to what's going on, the culture, the language, and it's really been a vital part of our reservation.
In Rapid City, South Dakota, Shirley Snavy, ICT News.
Environmentalists are speaking out against what's being called the Willow Project from oil producer ConocoPhillips. The Willow Project is estimated to produce 180,000 barrels of oil per day, and it would generate billions of dollars for the federal government, the state of Alaska, and the North Slope Bureau. The proposal is expected to span across a 30-year time frame. It would be located on federal land within the National Petroleum Reserve in Alaska. Already, the Alaska State House of Representatives voted unanimously last week to support the project. Environmentalists argue that if the project is approved by the Biden administration, it will counteract emission reduction goals and worsen climate change. Other Indigenous groups are now taking to social media to urge people to get the administration and the Bureau of Land Management to reject this project. It is expected for the administration to make a decision by March 6th. Hoop dancing is a widely loved art form of storytelling and a display of cultural pride. Indigenous dancers from across the continent gather and compete to demonstrate their artistry, traditions, and athleticism every year. ICT's Ripley Simone Kennebrew has all the sights and sounds from this year's event.
The Herd Museum in Phoenix, Arizona hosted the 33rd Annual World Championship Hoop Dance Contest. On February 18th and 19th, dancers from all over North America came to show off their talent.
Indigenous culture is a way of life for a lot of the Native Americans, but also our grandparents teach us is, respect your culture. And this is one of the things that we do is bring everybody together within that circle. And once that circle is complete, then we know as dancers we've done our job. So when we bring people together, it's just most like unity, and that's what that hoop is, unity.
Like other forms of dance, this style is used to tell stories with dancers performing solo or in pairs.
The thing that's most important, I feel, about hoop dancing is the teachings that are behind the dance. It's a very exciting dance to watch, it's a very exciting and fun dance to do, but the spiritual and the teachings of balance, the teachings of finding oneself and honoring all living beings within that circle, I think that's the true meaning of hoop dancing. As Indigenous peoples, we tell our stories through music, through dance, through our artwork, through storytelling. And the hoop dance is one of those unique dances where each dancer gets to tell their own personal story with the hoops. That's what I feel is really unique about this dance. You can use 5 hoops, you can use 55 hoops. You can do a fast-paced song, you can do a slower-paced style, smooth and slow style. It's all up to the dancer.
Dancers, both young and more seasoned, have been incorporating new designs and more complex footwork into their performances. And regardless of each dancer's outcome, the weekend was filled with impressive performances and a great sense of community. In Phoenix, Arizona, Ripley Simone Kennebrew, ICT News.
Among the winners this year was Scott Six Killer Sinqua, who took the title of Adult World Champion. He is from the tribes of Gila River, Pima, Hopi-Tewa, Cherokee, and Choctaw. It's wonderful to be back in the anchor chair. As you may have noticed, I have been away for a few weeks. That's because I got married. My husband Taryn and I tied the knot on February 11th in his Pueblo nation of Jemez in New Mexico. We were married traditionally, as you can see here. Both of our communities of Jemez and Giwa came together to accept one another, and we definitely felt the blessings of everyone. It was important to Taryn and I to get married in this way. We wore Pueblo wedding clothes made by Lydia Chinina and had the most beautiful celebration with our communities. We even had some of our friends from ICT make the trip to join us. We are both so happy and thankful for it all. We'll be right back. Blackfeet citizen Stephen Graham Jones is a New York Times best-selling author of nearly 30 horror and sci-fi novels and collections. He has received many awards and honors, including the Ray Bradbury and Bram Stoker Awards. Hi there, Stephen, and congratulations.
Hello, congratulations to you as well.
Oh, thank you so much. You just won the Festival of Words Writers Award given by the Tulsa Library Trust. Tell us about what that honor means to you.
Oh man, they just give it every other year, so that like cuts in half the amount of people who can get it, which means, I guess it means so much more for me to get it. It's an honor I never expected. I didn't even think it was on the radar for something like this.
How did you get started as a writer to begin with?
I never planned on being a writer. I planned on driving a tractor my whole life, but I hurt my back and I had to get a desk job, and that turned into writing. And I found out that I could win awards and get checks for telling lies, so why not?
You've actually written 22 books over 30 years. Where do you get your ideas from, and do you have a personal favorite?
A personal favorite of my novels, that's a hard call. Usually it's the current one, like Don't Fear the Reaper, the one I have out right now. But man, a good starting point with me is probably Mongrels, because it's in the horror realm, but it's not like over the top, bloody, gory, all that. But where do I get my ideas? I just have too many ideas, really. They're all trying to crawl over the gate to get on the page, and I just have to say, not you, but you. I was reading an interview. Somebody said they were at a campfire with Willie Nelson a few years ago down on Galveston Beach, and he was picking on his famous old guitar, Trigger, I guess, and he just kept making up melodies, and they said, how do you do that? How do you make up these melodies? And he said, they're just in the air. I just reach up and get them. And I feel like that's how stories are too.
And actually, I want to talk about you writing horror stories, because that's not something that we hear of too often. How did you get started? Did you always know that you wanted to write horror stories, or what did that look like for you?
I always liked scary stuff. And so it makes sense that I would gravitate towards horror, because I want to pay back into the system that I feel has given me so much. What I like about horror is the mortal stakes and how everything's always like operatic and dialed up real high. You don't have to try to make things matter because it's always life and death, so things just matter automatically.
You just showed us your newest novel, but tell us more about it.
Don't Fear the Reaper is a sequel to My Heart is a Chainsaw. My Heart is a Chainsaw is Jay Daniels, Blackfeet girl living up the mountain in Idaho. She believes in slashers, and a slasher comes to her town. Nobody believes that that's going to happen. Nobody believes Jade when she tells them that's going to happen. And then the massacre comes, and now 4 years later, and Don't Fear the Reaper, the community is living with the fallout of having tried to survive a massacre and also trying to survive another killer coming to town.
I want to talk about the comic book series that you recently published. Tell us about that.
Earth Divers, it's 2112. The ecosphere has collapsed, or it's in a state of collapse. So all the waters are lowering, everything is getting baked. And these four indigenous survivors kind of find each other in the desert. And because of the lowered waters, there's a cave that's been exposed out in the southwest. And they figure out that's a time travel cave. It'll take them back to where they want to go. And they decide that to save the world, they have to stop America from happening. And they identify 1492 as the prime place to stop America from happening. So they go back in time to try to kill Columbus.
Wow, what an idea. Where did you get that idea from?
Man, probably just sitting in the back of the classroom in fourth grade history and listening to this guy Columbus being made into a hero and thinking, seriously? You know, this dude who like enslaved my people and opened the doors for infection and plundering and just all the terribleness. I'm like, he's a hero. So I think this idea has been nested in my head for many, many years.
You mentioned earlier that you thought you would, drive a tractor, but I want to talk about maybe a young Native person who wants to start writing and maybe needs some advice. What would you say to them?
I would say do the stuff that's vital to you. It's so easy to fall into a trap where you have to be a voice for your culture, or you have to speak for everyone, or you have to always deal with politics of identity and repatriation and all that stuff, which that's great. Deal with that stuff if you want to. But if you just want to tell a story about Spider-Man or an elf or whatever, do that. What we need are just stories about what matters to you.
Great advice there. Well, Stephen Graham Jones, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Since 2016, Indigi-Pop-X has been more than just a typical pop culture convention. This event is a showcase and celebration of Native creatives and the Indige-nerd identity. We're joined virtually by Indigi-Pop-X founder Lee Francis IV, who is gearing up for this year's con in Oklahoma City. Welcome back, Lee.
Guatsi, great to be back. Thank you so much.
Let's jump right in here because the convention is an in-person event, coming back for the first time. But tell us what made Oklahoma City the ideal place this year.
I think this year we got reached out to last year in 2022 as we were starting to think about coming back from First Americans Museum. And we got some great Indigi-nerds that are there, Kristen Gentry, Tom Ferris, like that crew really, was very welcoming. They've done pop culture work for years, decades at this point. And we felt that it would be a great gathering point. We've done Indigi-Pop-X and the Comic-Con in Albuquerque, in Denver, in Melbourne, Australia. We've hosted in numerous communities and numerous locations. And so it felt like a really good fit in our reemergence, coming back from the pandemic as our first in-person event, to be able to host it in Oklahoma City. a nice central gathering point for multiple tribes, nations, communities, et cetera, to show their indigenous spirit.
For people who are hearing about this event for the first time, maybe talk about some of the programming and what can actually be found at these kinds of expos.
Yeah, the expo is so great. It really highlights and showcases Natives and Indigenous folks in pop culture. So we have guests that are from film and television. We have Native creatives that are working in science fiction, fantasy, games, video games, role-playing games, and of course, comic books and graphic novels. We'll have cosplay contests. We've got mini golf. We've got a showing of the film Prey with some talk back from audience or from the director and the producer and whatnot, some cast members. We've got, folks that are just going to be there through the whole day. We have an incredible native pop culture market. It's the Indigenous pop culture market that's going to be in place all weekend long, and folks signing photos, and just really a great event for communities and families.
There have actually been some pretty big names that have been announced who are going to be there. And I want to ask you, as a fan, who are some of the people that you're excited to see?
See, that's hard because you can't do that, because I can't talk about just one person, because I have to talk about the whole list, because otherwise I get in trouble. I am so excited to see just people back in person again. There are some old hands that are going to be there. Jonathan Joss, John Redcorn is going to be there. He's been there since year one. We've got, Muriel Farian, who's non-native, but she was the creator of Strawberry Shortcake, and she's unveiling, an indigenous strawberry shortcake. We have, folks that are creating robots that have written for role-playing games. We have local folks, we have actors, we have Ramon Zaragoza from Ghosts is going to be there as well. I'm just thrilled with all of the guests that are going to be there, and all the people that are coming to celebrate this indigeneity, but really just natives and pop culture, and being creative, expressing in ways that are positive and dynamic and just joyous.
You mentioned cosplay earlier. I want to make sure that, we're all on a level playing field here. So tell us what that is.
So cosplay is, imagine Halloween, except year round with your favorite nerd characters. So if you want to dress up as Spider-Man or as Venom or as John Redcorn or as your favorite characters from Reservation Dogs, that's what cosplay allows. There's contests that go on with it. We have some great native cosplayers. Desma Rose is going to be there. Rasan Williams, who is a cosplayer from the East Coast, or now from Arizona, but he's going to be going around doing he's got a cosplay, he'll help stitch stuff up, and it's usually original costumes, right? So it's costuming in a way that makes you as the character. It's originally created. A lot of cosplayers put so much time, effort, and energy into their costumes to make it look as realistic as possible for the characters that they want to emulate.
And I understand you're actually asking folks not to dress up as something that would fall into a negative native stereotype. Tell us about that decision.
Yeah, absolutely. That's been our decision since year one, is we want people to be respectful of the community, of the culture, of the aunties, the grandmas, the grandpas that are going to be there that may have some issues with particular characters. And we ask everybody to be, generous and delicate and graceful in understanding that, there may be a little bit of an issue with some Disney representations, or there may be a bit of an issue with some other pop culture representations. What we always ask folks is to be respectful, to be authentic, and to be as specific as possible. So, for example, you want to do a character that's in, Warpath from the X-Men. Well, really be Warpath. You're not just throwing on a headdress, and having some knives and walking around being just like, I'm Warpath. There's a particular character, for Warpath, what that character looks like in the comic book. So it's as specific as possible. And I will always say, in any of these instances, no red face, right? You don't need to, paint up the skin or anything to look more like the character. We get it. The costume is iconic enough. So we just want to make sure that everybody is really respectful, and just remember that this is about heart and spirit. We haven't had an issue, ever. So like, we just want to keep that going, and we want everybody to just be there, enjoy, and celebrate.
Talking about being there, is IPX just for Indigenous people, or can anyone attend?
Everyone should attend. That's the best part. We want Native folks, Indigenous folks to be there. This is an expo, right? We want to showcase all the great things that Native folks are doing, especially in pop culture. And it's the best way to come out, especially with our market. Like the Indigenous pop culture expo market is going to be fantastic for finding beaded baby Yodas and comic books that you probably have never seen before by Native folks, and just games like role-playing games and video games, all the stuff. We want everyone to come experience that. We want everyone to come out and find this joy and celebration. It's like, I used to say, it's like gathering of nations for nerds, right? We want everybody to come on out, so to be a part of this.
Well, very quickly here, tell us if our viewers have more questions or they want to find more information, where can they find it?
Sure. The event is March 10th through the 12th, Oklahoma City First Americans Museum. You can find more information at www.Indigi-Pop-X, Indigi with an I, popx.com. And that has all of our, has our programming, has our guests, has where you can buy tickets. We've got a lot of programming that goes on. Each day is different. We start with an education day. Saturday is sort of like our guest day, and then Sunday closes with a family day. That's where we got the mini golf, and we got lots of fun activities for everybody through the whole weekend. So it's a great event, and it's a great chance to come down and celebrate Native identity.
Well, Lee Francis IV, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
For hundreds of years, Indigenous people have developed sophisticated methods to communicate. One example of that is Plains Indian Sign Language that was even highlighted at the Super Bowl. Here's Indigi-Genius host Lee Francis with more on the history and styles of Indigenous communication.
For hundreds of years, Indigenous people have developed sophisticated methods to communicate. Given the number of nations with language differences and tribes and the distances across the United States and around the world, it was and continues to be important for people to be able to understand each other. The necessities of trade, defense, and general human connections have always been an access point to deeper understandings of Indigenous communities. From interpersonal communication to long-distance communication, the fundamental building blocks of human interaction have been present with Indigenous communities, tribes, and nations for millennia. But how does that act of communication actually work? It breaks down like this. For any communication, there is a sender and a receiver. The sender determines a need, thought, or feeling they would like to send to the receiver. The message is then coded. This can be through various means, spoken or written. The receiver recognizes the message and goes through a process of decoding the message and then makes meaning out of the message. Then they switch roles and the process begins again. When you are face to face, this is not so much of a problem, but what happens when you have to communicate over long distances? Well, let's set it on fire. No, not for real. But fire has been a major method of long-distance communication for thousands of years. Signal fires, for example, have been used to relay important events across miles and miles of land. And, as many know, the use of smoke signals is embedded in American popular culture. But those pops of smoke were coded and decoded throughout the ages and carry complex and significant understandings for those that could understand them. Even hand signals could be seen at long distances, which would be used to relay more complicated messages. Of course, there are many other ways to communicate needs and necessities. Maps and marks, art and sound, music and storytelling are all ways in which Indigenous people across the globe have found ways to pass on important cultural traditions and, of course, yield the basic necessities. Even in times of duress, these systems of communication have been and continue to be embedded in the fundamental understandings of Indigenous peoples. That is why so many traditional practices and languages, once on the verge of extinction, have been making slow and steady progress back into the world. When I was very little, I remember seeing my grandma at a community feast day. She didn't speak a lot, but she found ways to communicate simply through her eyes and intonations. It was only years later that I realized how profound her communications and conversations were. Although Indigenous people didn't invent communication, the ways in which traditional languages and traditional methods have continued to evolve and adapt throughout this worldwide communication network further demonstrate how Indigenous communication is not simply an act of sender and receiver, but rather something deeper and more intuitive for many Indigenous peoples and communities. I will say, though, nothing beats an old-fashioned smile, and those smiles are on display each and every day here on Indigi-Genius.
And that's a slice of our Indigenous world. For all the latest, visit ictnews.org. From all of us in the newsroom, stay safe, my relatives.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.